Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, you'll hear from current students, alumni, teachers, and many more special guests as we explore what it's really like to live and study at Lund University. My name is Tim Parker, and I am an International Communications Officer here at External Relations. As you all know, here at Lund University, we have over 140 English taught degree programs, and this application round, we are very, very excited to have a new, exciting international degree program taught in English that will be open for applications. And with me today, we have a very special guest to tell us all about this exciting new program. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Maja Essebo. I am the Director of Studies at Lund University Centre for Sustainability Studies, also known as LUCSUS.
Perfect. So you would be the perfect person to talk to us about this new program.
Let's hope.
What's it called?
It is called LUCSUS. It is a 2-year international master's program in climate change and society.
Okay. Very, very exciting. Sounds like the perfect kind of program for a Lund University student to study.
Much needed,
yes.
I would say. So I'm very excited to talk about it.
Exciting. And I mean, we are ranked 8th in the world on the QS sustainability rankings for 2024 and the 3rd in the EU. So it would make sense that we get a new sustainability focused program.
And that is a position that we'd like to keep and possibly even advance if we can. So we keep developing.
Fantastic. So, Maja, can you tell us a little bit more about the program?
Well, it's a 2-year program, international program, and it is open to all academic backgrounds. So in that sense, it's interdisciplinary. So we don't have any particular requirements in terms of what you've studied before. And we have this already with the sister master program, LUMUS. And what we found is that even though it's quite a challenge to have such an academic mix, it is a huge strength, particularly for the students, because they also get to learn from each other, from each other's backgrounds. So that's what it is. It's open to all academic backgrounds. It focuses on societal aspect of climate change. There are programs and there are courses that perhaps focus more on technological approaches or perhaps that focus on a particular part or aspect of climate change. But seeing as how climate change is a societal problem, this is also how we want to address it as a holistic problem that we can only as a society address.
All right. So is there any component of natural science in the program?
There is.
Okay, fantastic.
All the courses for the first year are 7.5 credits, except for the very first course, which is twice as big, 15 credits. And this one is on drivers and dynamics of climate change. Because what we've noticed with our students and in general is that even though we're very well aware of the phenomenon of climate change, few people can actually tell us about the scientific knowledge we have about it. How do we know this? So the entire first 15 credits is about what do we know, how do we know it, and also what don't we yet know in terms of the science of climate change. And the idea here is that students need to have a good understanding of what it is from a scientific perspective before we can argue about its potential solutions.
Exciting. And I'm interested to hear about the remaining structure of the program as well. So you mentioned the first course. What other courses will there be for our admitted students to sink their teeth into?
The whole idea with how we've designed the program, which actually follows a course that we've been running for a few years now, is that we take students from the basic scientific knowledges of climate change up until transformation, fundamental change. So after you have the basics of climate change, you will go through politics of climate change and mitigation. After that is adaptation. And then we go into transformation. So it's taking you from perhaps the idea of how we can limit the consequences and impact of climate change, how we can adapt to living with changes, which are inevitable to a certain extent, and then all the way into how we can look at fundamental societal change, where we can look more like push the boundaries a little bit and not only discuss perhaps what is and has been, but what could be. And that is the progression of the program.
Fantastic. I wish I was a young applicant so I could study this program. It sounds really, really interesting.
You don't have to be a young applicant because we would love to actually have a bit of more of an age mix in our programs. So
there you go. So that's actually a good point. So you already mentioned the program's going to be interdisciplinary. Mm-hmm. You're going to have students from a whole different variety of backgrounds and countries, I suppose, as well.
So we very much hope. This is what we have with our LUMUS program, and it is definitely an enormous strength of the program, having that mix both in academic backgrounds and in nationalities and geographies.
Exciting. And Lund University is well known for being a research-intensive university. So the students studying this program will have the opportunity to conclude with a master's thesis, I assume.
They do. Exciting. So it's very important because we often get questions, what research opportunities are there? Now, even though we are a research centre, LUCSUS is a research centre, not a department, we have a very long experience of sustainability research and we're heavy on research side. We only have this new programme and the other LUMUS programme. Those are our only two programmes. So you'll be in a research-intense environment, but it's important here to point out that we do not have opportunities for students to join on research projects as part of their education. So the opportunity you really have to go deeper into a sustainability challenge or a climate change challenge will be your master thesis, which is the last semester. But before that, we have the third semester. And for that, we don't only look at approaches that are interdisciplinary, but we look at transdisciplinary approaches. And transdisciplinarity means that we emphasise the importance of involving societal actors and saying that within academia, we can only go so far. We need connections here with actual practice. So the third semester is an internship.
Okay. It's a mandatory internship.
It's not a mandatory internship. It's a strongly recommended internship.
Good.
You have the possibility to take elective courses that you will then have to find and apply for yourself. I want to emphasise that. But it's something that you can do if you absolutely positively feel like you don't want to do an internship. But why wouldn't you? Because it's such a good opportunity. It's an experience for you to have done it. You create contacts and networks that are very valuable, and you get to do it in practice, which is, of course, where we all want to end up.
Exactly. And I'm sure our listeners out there are also thinking about how motivated and excited they are to study this program, but they're probably already thinking about their career prospects a little bit as well.
We have students who come in on day one and say, right, so what's my future career?
As they should ask.
And that's entirely fair. Yeah. It's entirely fair to have that focus. And the idea of this program is that you can come out working in any type of organisation that actively addresses the challenges of climate change. It is intended to give you a quite broad introduction to how to actively work with climate change within many different types of organisations. And if we look at our LUMUS students, our other master's programme, to see where they go afterwards, they have such varied careers. Most end up working in the field of sustainability, so they stay within the field. But they work in large international networks, they work for local businesses, they work for private industry. So really any societal actor that is serious about addressing climate change in practice, that's where you can go. And you're also qualified to continue within academia. So you'll be qualified to apply for a PhD candidate positions, either staying in Sweden or internationally.
That sounds very promising. And speaking of applying for PhD positions, and we've talked a little bit about research as well. I'm really interested to hear about how this program is tied to current research and also perhaps to your research as well.
The first thing I can say is that being a research centre, we have staff that is very, very actively involved in research constantly. So the teachers, they research. And we're very careful to make sure that we integrate what we do in education. And we also see that students, they really want this. They keep asking about our research. They keep wanting examples. They keep wanting to know what it is we do. And, we're academics. We love to talk about what it is we do. So we try our best to accommodate them. So they'll have strong connection via education into what it is we're doing. As for myself, I have one course, which is the course on transformations. And I suppose my interest there and my research background is that I am the in-house storyteller. I'm interested in the stories we tell about each other and our societies, and particularly the type of stories that are called myths. And not in the sense of misconceptions or that they're false, but rather that we take them for granted. We don't question them. So myth is a story that is beyond questioning and something that is simply a part of our life and that we share with other people in our groups, in our societies. And they help guide us through everyday life. But some of these are helpful and some are not. And so I'm really interested in knowing how these develop and how they affect us in everyday life, and also how they can change. It's exceedingly hard, but absolutely possible. And I suppose that's my research background and my interest. And then lately I've gotten more interested in knowing how these are created, these myths, these stories are created and spread through algorithmic processes and practices. So that is also part of the transformations course, is talking about how algorithmic practices play a vital role both in our knowledge of climate change, but also in how ideas of climate change spread, including misinformation. And by this I mean artificial intelligence and perhaps even more so machine learning.
You have inspired me. And I'm
Excellent.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there are also just thinking of all those different research ideas that they can work with based off what you've just said. So I think this sounds truly fascinating and really, really important. I also want to know what type of student should apply to the program. You already touched on it a little bit.
Any type. I realise that's not very helpful in terms of if you are thinking of applying for this program, should you not? But I mean, the mix is really where we have seen strength. It's challenging. I'm not going to deny it's actually challenging having people from all over the world, and even more so with different academic backgrounds, because you have a natural science background, you're going to find the first course perhaps too simplistic. But then you go into the later courses and they're going to be challenging for you. But the idea is also that this is where you find support and give support to each other. So you have a natural science background when you then have an opportunity to support your fellow students with a social science background and vice versa in the other courses. So any student from anywhere. Part of the application is also that we ask students that they write a statement of purpose or letter of intent. I can't remember which we call it, but it's the same basic idea where you tell us about you. And we have students who have written passionately about their work experience in the field that they want to develop. And we have students who have written passionately about their academic career that they want to pursue. And we are very much interested in finding a mix here, because the mix is so rewarding in terms of the program, and also for us as teachers, because we never know what's going to happen in the classroom, honestly, when we walk in. And that's much due to the variety and mix of backgrounds.
Excellent. And now I'm sure our listeners are wondering about how and when they need to apply.
The practicalities.
Yes.
You apply through the national application system, the Swedish national application system. And it's the same system you use for any programs in Sweden. So it goes through that same way, and you can find information about that on their website. You apply mid-October. I don't have the date yet. It's typically the 15th, but mid-October is when it is. And I have one very, very important piece of advice. Follow the instructions, please.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's the best piece of advice I can get. You'll have both instructions on how to apply in the system, but also then there are a few documents that we want you to have, and you can find that on the website, on our website, where you'll have very clear instructions on exactly what it is we want you to submit and how to submit it. Do that. Because we do get students every year who, brilliant students, wonderful grades, everything, and then they just didn't submit something. And then they phone us and they say, why didn't I get in? And you say, you do have to submit. So follow instructions.
Perfect. And I should just jump in here to say that there's a host of administrative staff, including myself at Lund University, which are going to help and guide you through that entire process. But you heard it here first. Read the program page.
Yes.
And triple and quadruple check all the required documents.
Excellent.
Yes. And Lund is actually quite favorable when you apply to Sweden. We have a very long period when you can apply from mid-October until mid-January. So if you're listening to this episode now, then you still have plenty of time to get your documents in order. And Maja, you mentioned already that there's another international degree program at LUCSUS called Environmental Studies and Sustainability Science, which is very popular and which draws students who have a similar type of focus on tackling climate change, tackling social justice issues, amongst other things. So for those students that are listening and thinking about these two programs, what's the difference?
Excellent question, and one I expect I will be asked a fair few times in the next coming months. So LUMUS, which is the other program, focuses on broader sustainability challenges. It is a program in specifically sustainability science, which is a field. So if you're interested in knowing what that is, Google sustainability science, and you'll get a good idea what the LUMUS program is. It gives you a quite broad overview of several sustainability challenges and approaches to sustainability challenges. And typically students will come out of that program saying, I'm an expert of everything and nothing. So it's not focused in depth on a particular area. You're not going to come out there being expert on a thing, but you are going to come out having very good general knowledge. Because what we focus on there is much to do with systems, how things are connected and various aspects of sustainability challenges. That program is also very important to note, because I get asked that a lot, does not have an internship. So if transdisciplinarity and an internship is something that you're very, very keen to do, LUMUS is not the program for you. LUCSUS is the program for you. And LUCSUS then focuses particularly on the problems of climate change and does not have the same broad overview of sustainability challenges that the LUMUS program does.
Fantastic summary. That really, really cleared it up.
Good.
All right. And what kind of study environment can students expect from this program?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to say that it's all in Lund. We forget that sometimes, we take it for granted, but this is an absolutely beautiful town and is very much set up for students and for studies. It's centred on the university, I would very much say. So in terms of student environment and student activities in town, there'll be plenty for sure. You'll find a home here. The programme as such is all given at LUCSUS, and we have our own premises. So what it is that you'll be in the same building as our researchers. And typically we have a very close relationship. We see students every day and we know them and we say hello and we chat in the corridors, which is really lovely. You'll have the third floor, and you'll share the third floor with the LUMUS students, because that's where we have our lecture halls. That's where you have your student quarters, so to speak, the student lounge. And this is also where students spend a lot of time, even outside of class. Because it's important to emphasise, it's not class heavy. Some programmes you go 8 to 5. You don't here. You also have time for group work, you have time for reading, you have lots of independent time. And we see that a lot of LUMUS students, they spend this time at LUCSUS as well and on the third floor. There's always people on the third floor, which is absolutely wonderful. And we're very happy about that study environment. Then, of course, you'll have access to all the other facilities. I don't know how many libraries we have. Maybe you know how many libraries we have.
Around about 27, I think.
I can believe that. I haven't even been to them all. We have a lot of libraries, and you'll have access to them all in terms of study places, etc. But mostly you'll be spending probably a lot of time there, both for lectures but also for your group work.
Fantastic. And LUMUS has become a little bit famous for having a supportive, nurturing environment. Can our students of climate change in society expect something similar?
I should hope so. I don't think we're going to separate between the students in any negative way. We do. We have a very nurturing environment. It's one of those things you realise when you go outside of LUCSUS and you see sort of what's happening. You realise we're very close to our students. We know them well. And we have a very, very strong support in our student coordinator, who never changes jobs or cry.
She's also famous, I can add, university-wide for being incredibly organised and proactive. So students admitted are definitely going to get all the info they need right on time.
Will they ever? And she gets asked everything. And this is not me encouraging you to ask her everything, because she cannot get an email and not reply to it. So if you ask her where you can get a particular type of rice, she'll tell you. But please stop asking her that, because she gets a lot of emails. Her name is Amanda, and she's just glorious, and I'd be lost without her. She's absolutely wonderful. But the idea is that we do want to have a good supportive system for our students, and we're also seeing that our students overall, they do very well. They typically finish the program, and they typically finish the program having done well in terms of grades as well. And I think the way it's all set up is a very big part of that. Now, I do want to emphasise some limits, because Amanda goes above and beyond sometimes to the point where you have to tell her stop it and go home. But the idea is that we really like engaging with our students. And I see absolutely no reason why we wouldn't feel the same about the LUCSUS programme. And very much looking forward to see the sort of students we'll get and what we'll talk about, because the programme's new to us too. So we're ready to explore.
Excellent. And do you have any other advice for our listeners out there who are just sitting at home on the couch or taking their daily commute dreaming of studying this program in the future?
Oh, no pressure at all. Say something inspirational and funny, please. I can say that we're excited. And if these are questions that excite you, then we're interested in having you. I don't know if that's a general advice, but I think go for it is my general advice. If this is something where you feel you don't quite know sort of what route to take in order to take action, you want to be part of something, well, that's the aim of this programme. So I think my best advice, honestly, is to go for it.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of applicants in this application round.
I hope so.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and X, and you can chat with current students on UniBuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.